In this section, we will be seeing about the different line of sight path characteristics in microwave communication. So before going to the line of sight path characteristics or the considerations in microwave communication, understand that always the communication is a LOS, that is a line of sight between a transmitting antenna and receiving antenna, and there will be traveling of EM waves between the antennas. But still we have to understand the terminologies of different types of waves. That is, you can see in the figure and it is written about the several type of waves which is going to occur between the antennas. So first one, it will be a direct wave that is occurring between the line of sight path between the transmitting and receiving antenna. That is written here first, that is a direct wave. And some it will be reflected, that is it will be reflected from the ground, called as ground reflected wave. It will be captured again by the receiving antenna. And another one, it will be the surface wave, that is the electric and the magnetic field which is being induced. Okay, these waves are traveling along the earth's surface, they are induced and then being received by the antenna, receiving antenna. Then we may have the ground wave. So ground wave, we mean the total of all the above three waves, that is these free space path, ground reflected wave and surface wave. Together we can mean it as a ground wave. Then there is sky wave, that is certain portion it will be going to the ionosphere and getting back reflected. Okay, and then it will be captured by the receiving antenna. So, when we are considering about our microwave communication, we are going to focus on direct and reflected waves. Why? Because at very high frequencies, if we are assuming that our antenna heights, they are not going to be too much low, we can actually neglect these waves. That is, a surface waves we can neglect. And also at very high microwave communication range frequency, these sky waves also can be neglected. They will be only a source of, say, a interference, and not, it is going to be a not a reliable one for our microwave communication. So for microwave communication, we are going to focus only about the direct waves, that is a line of sight waves, and the ground reflected waves. So focus on direct and reflected waves. So first we will see about the first LOS characteristics. A very important term when we are considering about to design our microwave link is the free space path loss. So what is the loss? So by loss we mean that some loss is actually occurring in the signal, that is incurred by an electromagnetic wave as it is going to propagate in a straight line through vacuum with no absorption or reflection of energy from nearby objects. So when we are considering the statement of this free space path loss, we have to understand that we are definitely considering a loss. But we have to understand here that no energy is being actually dissipated. That is basically we are using this quantity which will help us in designing a proper microwave communication link. That is, if we are going to design a link, we have to particularly fix a path loss, that is a free space path loss for that particular link. So there we have to consider all this transmit antenna gain, effective area of receiving, and all these are being considered in the calculation of free space path loss. So we have to understand that it is a distance and a frequency dependent term. So by looking at the equation, we can know that it is a distance and frequency dependent term, and no energy is actually being dissipated. That is important. In ideal atmospheric condition only, we are considering the free space path loss. No energy is actually being dissipated. So it merely spread out as it propagates away from the source, which will result in lower power density. So more appropriate term for the free space path loss is a spreading loss. So spreading, it is going to occur because of the inverse square law. So by inverse square law we know that what do we mean by inverse square law is that as we move away from one of a particular source, okay, as the distance goes on increasing, the particular quantity or say the power, it will be inversely proportional to the square of the distance. So that is inverse square law. Now this is the equation for the free space path loss, that is LP is equal to 4 pi d by lambda the whole square, and lambda we can replace by c by f. So LP becomes 4 pi ft by c the whole square. So d is the actually the distance in kilometer, f frequency, lambda is the wavelength, and c velocity of light in free space. So you have to learn all these equations for the path loss. That is, if you are asked in the examination for the numericals, we should be able to recollect directly this equation, which will help in the easy computation of the problems. So these are the several equations for the free space path loss LP. Now we can see how the calculation of free space path loss is being done. So usually when we are considering the case of a isotropic radiator, we assume that isotropic radiator, the energy it is going to dissipate uniformly in all direction. So we are having a circular shape. So its area of a sphere we can consider as a 4 pi r square. Okay, so when we are considering about the power density, we must understand that it is inversely proportional to the surface area of the sphere. So when we are considering in the first case, if we are considering what is the power, that is S as a power density. So PT is the transmitted power. So what will be the power density? It will be the transmitted power per unit area. So here we are writing it as 4 pi d square. Here d is the distance between the transmitter and receiver. So first equation, it is because of the spreading out of the electromagnetic energy in free space, which is determined by the inverse square law. And second effect we are considering is about the receiving power. So how can you write the equation for the receiving power? That is, receiving power will be this power density, okay, that is S. That is a non-directional power density which is being received by the receiver antenna multiplied by the area of the isotropic antenna. So here area of the isotropic antenna is taken as lambda square by 4 pi, which is a standard equation. So this is the received power. So the second effect is that of the receiving antenna's aperture, which describe how well an antenna can pick up the power from an incoming electromagnetic wave. So this is the equation for the received power. Now what will be the free space path loss? It will be finding the ratio of this PT to PR. So the total loss, it will be given by the ratio of PT to PR, which can be found by combining the previous two expressions. So finally we get this particular equation for the path loss or LP. So this is how you actually obtain this equation. That is, if you are considering isotropic antenna, and first of all write the equation for transmitted power, and then considering again isotropic case, we write the equation for received power, and then compute the ratio, we get the path loss. So we must understand that this is actually a fabricated quantity. Okay, this is going to help us in designing a microwave link. So this depends also upon this distance, frequency, wavelength, etc. Next LOS consideration is regarding the Fresnel zone clearance. So we have to understand the concept of how to clear the path. Okay, the line of sight path, it should be clear and it should not be of any obstructions. So these points, it is actually meaning the importance of this path clearance, and because of this path clearance we must be able to understand the antenna heights also. So path clearance and antenna heights is another important factor. So the presence of the earth surface, topography of earth surface is important. That is, there can be any type of obstruction in the LOS communication. So first one is we have to understand or fabricate the free space path loss. Then we have to accomplish the path between the transmit and receive antenna. That is, we have to ensure this LOS path is existing. So this clearance is necessary to ensure that the path loss, whatever is there, we have calculated, it is under the normal condition and is not going to deviate. Otherwise, what will happen because of the effects of severe fading which could occur due to abnormal conditions, we may not get the necessary output from that particular system. So here also you can see that we are having, say, a transmitting antenna at A end and receiving antenna at B end, and there is a direct line of sight path which is indicated by D. But because of the topography of the earth, and we are having a reflection point at C, so there can be a secondary transmission path. Say D1 is a distance of the secondary transmission path, and there is a reflection point occurring. So if unobstructed, the radio waves are going to travel straight. But if there are reflective surfaces, then it will reflect from those surfaces and it will arrive here either out of phase or in phase. So we have to understand what is the concept of the Fresnel zone. Okay, so by Fresnel zone, what we actually mean is that if we are actually able to draw ellipse between the transmitting and receiving, as we have seen in the previous figure, that is, all points from which a wave could be reflected with an additional path length of 1/2 wavelength, it forms an ellipse that defines the first Fresnel zone. So if there is a reflection point that is with the additional path length of 1/2 wavelength, it is forming a ellipse which is going to define our first Fresnel zone. At least we have to take care that the first Fresnel zone, it is free of all the obstructions. So the first zone must be kept largely free from all the obstructions to avoid interfering with the radio receptions. So there is a rule of thumb that the maximum obstruction which is allowed is 40%, but we try to keep it at 20% or less. So first of all, if we are considering a straight line between the transmit and the receiving antenna, now the zone surrounding this line of sight, it is said to be the Fresnel zone. That is, obviously we have to consider an obstruction or a reflecting path, and then try to recognize the ellipse structure and understand about the concept of the Fresnel zone. Now, whenever these distances, that is AB here indicates the direct path between the transmitter and receiver, and ACB the indirect or the reflected path, that is C is our reflecting point. So if there is a transmission and a receiving antenna, C is a reflection point. So indirectly it is traveling, and if the distances, it is going to differ by odd multiple of half wavelength, then the energy is going to add, whereas if it is a whole number of half wavelength, the energy it will be cancelling. Now this is just the according to the law of the interference which is stated here, this particular sentence. Now what we have to understand is that once we have fabricated the path loss value, we have to ensure that this is not going to vary. So we have to keep at least our first Fresnel zone free of all the obstructions. So now here we are having a general equation, that is here D indicates the direct path between the transmitter and the receiver, and D1 indicates the indirect path length, that is if there is a reflection occurring, then the total path length, that is the indirect path length, that is given by distance of D1, and HN here, it is a distance between the direct path and the parabola which is surrounding it. So this is the general equation for the distance Hn from the line of sight path to the boundary of the nth Fresnel zone. It is approximated by a parabola and it is given by this particular equation. So whenever we are going to design a microwave link, first of all we will calculate, we will fabricate the maximum value, or what could be the value of our free space path loss, and then we will determine, okay, in which area we are going to place our link, where we are placing the transmitting and receiving antenna, that is a profile plot is made, and we will take note of the worst obstacle in the path, such as a mountain peak, and this obstacle, it is used as a standard point, or it is used as a reference point to determine what will be the minimum path clearance required. Okay, so what will be the, at least the first Fresnel zone, it must be free of all the obstructions. So depending upon that only we can choose the suitable antenna heights. So we can also use portable antennas, transmitters and receivers to test the location to determine the optimum antenna heights. So this is another LOS consideration, that is the Fresnel zone and antenna heights. So next one is the fading. So fading, it is a general term which is applied to reduction in signal strength at the input to a receiver. That is, suddenly we observe that a signal has dropped. below a particular determined level. There may be a reason for this reduction in signal strength. It can be either due to the atmospheric conditions or due to the obstructions of the geometry of the path, that is due to reflections, etc. So it applies to the propagation variables in physical radio path that affect changes in path loss between the transmit and receive antennas. So because of this fading, that is due to the intensity of our receive signal getting decreased, our calculated path loss also will get affected. So there can be different types of fading, like the slow and the flat fading that is occurring over a wide frequency band. So that will also increase in this path loss over this wide frequency band. So this type of slow and flat fading, they will occur mainly due to the ground waves. Okay, that is if the wave is moving over the ground, if the EM waves moves over the warm ground, and it is not frequency selective, that is it is occurring as a flat fading. And another type is a frequency selective fading. Okay, these type is mainly caused by this interference of the rays in atmosphere, that is due to the sky waves. This is being caused, and this will be a frequency selective type of fading. Or even there can be multipath fading. In multipath fading, the fading is due to the multiple transmission path length. That is because of the irregularities which occur in the atmosphere. So all these different types of fading, whatever it is going to result in reduced signal strength. And this multipath fading, it can be reduced if you are using the space or the frequency diversity which we have learned. These diversity techniques we have seen. So this type of multipath fading, it could be prevented up to some extent. And we can observe that as we are going to increase our repeater spacing, that is repeaters between the transmitter and receiver, as we are increasing this repeater spacing and as we are increasing our operating frequency, the fades are also going to get increased. So we have to obviously consider our fading factor. That is, we have fabricated our microwave communication link by using calculating the path loss value, and we have taken care about the first Fresnel zone being clear of all the obstruction. Now again we also have to think about up to what level these different types of fading. There are actually many types of fading, some are mentioned. So up to what level this fading can occur. So in this section we have discussed about the line of sight path considerations in microwave communication. So out the three are actually fading, the path loss, and the Fresnel zone and antenna height considerations.